Kris, there are a lot of voices vying for our attention today. Don't you think?
I think the rise of the influencers have overtaken Hollywood. And I think when TikTok came along, it went to a whole new level because that brought in the next generation of younger influencers. And now they're everywhere. The voices are everywhere.
When they were trying to shout down Joe Rogan, I think he has more viewership than CNN, which means that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
For one dude to have a platform that big, which is crazy. And you're in the same game. What would you say to someone who feels like they have a message that they want to get to the world and they're trying to cut through all that noise?
I think you have to hone your message and really know who you are.
Hey, what's up? Kris Krohn here, pausing my own podcast to ask you a question. Do you know what it looks like to partner in real estate with me? Check it out. I've got people all over the world that watch me on social and they realize, wait a second, Kris, I've got money sitting in 401ks, IRAs, equity in my home that is doing nothing. As in, it's earning single-digit ROIs and it's not gonna compound meaningfully to give me the retirement that I want, because at the age of 65, the average person has $255,000 in retirement. It's not a ton. But partnering with me means putting that money into real estate and letting money perform for you in incredible ways. If you want to access double-digit returns in real estate and yet not have to do any of the work, leave it up to me and my team. Click the link below, learn about partnering. Let me show you my track record on my last $2 billion worth of deals.
There's a lot of people that don't have their message dialed in and they think they're ready. And I think there's a lot of people out there that they're not willing to take a strong enough stand. But it's so easy to be discovered when you're ready. Who's that dude with the red beard a week ago trending #1 on iTunes that has 1 billion views because he's out in the woods and he took his guitar and then sang this crazy song filled with passion and anger about our taxation, our politicians, our messed up country, and everyone is flocking to him. And I'm like, when your message is ready, the people will come.
Okay, you're talking Oliver Anthony?
Yep. Rich men north of Richmond. And it's powerful because it hits you to the heart. They call him now, I think, like the blue collar anthem, meaning he's like the guy that represents the blue collar. This is like Boston Tea Party energy of like how all that started. You look at this dude and I'm like, the dude never wanted to be famous. You can tell, like he had a brilliant moment and he connected with everybody. Well, that's the world that we live in today. So when your message is ready and when you're ready to step up fully authentically into who you are, how can you be ignored? Like the platform is too big. It's for anyone that's there.
So you're saying he's getting millions of views for this message that he's getting?
1 billion since last week.
That's crazy. There is like nothing between a person and achieving that wide of audience except having the right thing to say. Okay, so you said there's 3 things. You got to know yourself, who you actually are. What that seems corny. What does that mean, Kris?
You know, I think of like musicians when they like are comfortable letting their heart bleed out and just tell you what their real life story is. You know, a couple years ago, there was this gal who went on and basically says, I have stage 4 cancer. I'm going to sing you a song of my own making. And then she sang the most beautiful song. She would have gone to the finals, but she was dead before she got there. But she left us the gift of that song that has now been listened and has touched hearts and minds all over the world. That song connected, I think, so deeply with the audience because the lyrics were about her and about her life. And it was like she knew herself well enough that she was willing to let the ego die and let us see the beautiful parts of her and the parts of her that she didn't like. And that was beautiful, the level of vulnerability. And I think what I'm really saying is authenticity and vulnerability is not something that everyone is ready for, because when someone's scared, like, oh, I want to put my best foot forward, I don't want you to see this other side of me. I'm like, you ain't ready yet. You ain't ready yet.
So I spent a lot of time behind the camera filming people, and this crazy thing happens once the camera's on. People put up this like,
it's like,
I'm going to posture.
Smile. I'm going to make it all look great.
Or there's just certain things that they won't say that they would normally say in a casual setting.
Yep.
How do you get there to where you're comfortable with that? Because you've gotten there. I mean, how many times, Kris, do people come to you and be like, man, you just seem so real, right?
I think it happened for me when I realized that if people can learn from the things that have happened to me that are good, can they learn just as much from the things that aren't? And am I okay letting people see all of me instead of filtered parts of me? Authenticity is honestly 15 years ago where a personal development journey started for me, because I was super phony. I was this people pleaser that wanted to be whoever you needed to be because I really needed you to like me. And then I talked to the next person, they wanted a different version of me. And so they got a different version of me that I hoped that they would like. And the worst thing in my mind was someone not liking me. So I was just hoping to be accepted. I was hoping to be liked. And it's very common when I speak in front of audiences and I ask who has that people pleaser syndrome.
Dude, every hand on the room.
It's the majority.
It's like all of America. I bet 95% of Americans feel like, oh, I'm just worried about
and
whether
I think
people
that's
like me.
I think that's why we crave when we find someone that's like, oh, how do you know they're authentic? Because they just finished telling you something awful that happened to them. And most people would think that that's got to downgrade your street cred. And it doesn't. It levels it up. And it's because most people know in their hearts they're just not willing to be that vulnerable. I have a belief. And the belief that I've been playing with this last year is that everyone is deserving of intimacy. To be seen. To see you for who you really are. And intimacy is normally connected to, the erotic or sexual intimacy, but I actually mean, intimacy should be completely separated out from romance and sexuality. It is seeing someone, truly. It's seeing their soul through their eyes. It's connecting with someone and allowing your judgments to just strip away and recognizing this person in front of me. Their goals are different than mine, but no less important. Their dreams are no less or more important than mine, but we share them and we share fears. Like we're two humans having human experience. And we're both beautiful. We're both precious. We're all priceless. And yet we're stuck in this ego game of hierarchy of like, well, one of us is better than the other when it comes to money. Whoever has more is better. And whoever's healthier is the healthier of the two. So then that person, gets to dominate consciously, from that perspective. And this hierarchy game is what creates separation instead of oneness. I think oneness occurs when we take out the filters and let everyone feel welcome and home and simply who they are.
Okay, so then second thing, you got to know your message.
Yeah. Like, what do you stand for?
Yeah, how did you figure out what you stand for?
Got pissed. I got pissed at all the financial stupidity that I was seeing happening all around me. When I was in my early 20s, I had this telemarketing job. It was like the only job that I ever had before I became self-employed. And I interviewed thousands of people over the course of years that were 401kers and IRAers, kind of like Dave Ramsey-ite people. Mm-hmm. They had all been to college 30 years earlier. Most of these people, avatar-wise, were in their 50s. They were within a decade of hoping to be done. So they were 3/4 through their 40-year working life, 30 years done, 10 to go. And most of them had $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 net worth. And I'm like, it doesn't take a financial genius to do a little math and figure out that whatever plan you followed, it didn't work. And yet their plan was exactly what my dad and my generation was screaming at me. Go to college, go into debt for it, and then get a job and work for somebody else, and everything will work out. I'm like, I just finished interviewing thousands of people that have done that super, super, super responsibly. And you know where they're all at? They're in an awful situation. And I became passionate about that. And publicly to this day, while I like to be a nice human being most of the time, I can't be nice about Dave's philosophy. I just don't like it. I think that it's a great way to stay poor. I can't get behind it. There are some things that maybe have some merit, and I'll give him that. But for the most part, just like, I think this is stupid. And when I do that, that's called polarizing. Mm-hmm. And then people have to make a choice. Am I going to stand with Kris or Dave? And then it becomes a game of, well, whose philosophy do I like more? Who resonates more with me? Or who makes more sense to me? And I'm okay if people like me, and I'm okay if they hate me. You have to be, in today's polarizing world, you have to be okay being loved or hated. For the most part, I don't read my comments. I think it's a waste of time. But reading my comments proves we're like, douchebag, scam artist,
let's hit
taker.
some real ones. I mean, you've had some interesting ones over the years. What are some comments that have stuck out to you from your detractors?
Someone said he's barefoot. So, you can't take him serious. Or someone saw...
Because you don't like wearing shoes at home.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't think Jesus wore sandals, right?
He was barefoot a lot of the time.
I don't know. Sure. So, or like someone was criticizing, I was doing a video replay, and for that day, I had someone's headphones and they weren't like Bose. And so someone was like totally like materialistically critiquing, if he's so rich, how come he couldn't afford that kind of stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's going to be out there. Like you're going to.
Do you remember your first video that went viral? Everyone was like, that's not even his house. Did you see the Chinese kids on the wall?
I know.
And it's your family.
It's a very, very Caucasian family on the picture on the
I'm
wall.
like, where did they get that?
I don't know.
So you got to have thick skin if you're going to get your message out there.
Yeah. Or just not care. That's part of being authentic. I just don't care. It's okay if you hate me. Right? Like that's the cool thing. That's what freedom of speech and agency means. And I'm not for everybody. Right? I'm for some, like you look at my risk tolerances and I have been balls to the wall for 20 years in my financial approach to life because I'm screaming at people that if you play the conservative road, you are guaranteed to be doomed. If you want a shot of getting somewhere, you got to grow a pair and then take action. And people are like, but Kris, that's risky. I'm like, no, that is less risky than you doing nothing and being indecisive and letting time creep by, wasting your number one asset, getting a whole lot of nowhere. People are going to hate on you for that. But a greater part of the people that follow me love me for it.
So how did you go from being the people pleaser to where you don't care?
I actually had to do a lot of deep shadow work and carpet work and get into rooms with, if you will, therapists and kind of new age and modern psychologists that have an approach to really rewiring the mind. And so I ended up kind of grabbing hold of that information and started doing a lot of playing with, okay, all human beings have a belief system and parts of it work and parts don't. When I assess most people until they've started stepping into their real personal growth work, more than half of what they think about is not just garbage, it's hurting them. So our belief system, the majority of it isn't good for us because it sets limits. It tells us, well, I'm not fast enough. I can't do it. And you can't do this. And you can't make that kind of money, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that does is pull us back. We do have some beliefs in there that are like empowering and beautiful and positive, but not many. So I had to go on a journey of basically ferreting out what beliefs were helping me and what beliefs were hurting me. And one of the things that, a people pleaser believes at their core is that people have to like them. I have to be liked. And what a handicap. And so I said, no, I have to be hated. And I might be loved, and I might be liked, and I might be disliked. And why should I care anyway? And I read this book by Katie Byron, Loving What Is. And in the book, she just basically says, there's your business, there's my business, and there's God's business. People pleasers spend their entire life in your business. So they're not really living. They're vicariously just like, it's like, hey, what's the purpose of your life? To be liked by whoever's in front of me. I'm like, what a pathetic purpose. What an awful, pathetic purpose, because you can't control people. You can't control their thoughts. You can't control their emotions. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to use every ounce of influence to be liked. I'm like, geez, just to be accepted. And the only person that needs to accept you is yourself. Or maybe you believe that it's you and God. But outside of that, do you need anyone else to really accept you? That's what I had to come face to face with. My demons were realizing that the purpose of my life is not to be liked. The purpose of my life is to find out what my purpose is and then to live it.
Okay, so you got to know who you are, you got to know your message, and then you got to be able to speak it unflinchingly.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to polarize. Don't be afraid to not be liked, and then to put it out there. You rewind 20 years ago, and there was a version of Kris Krohn that was very inauthentic. He was not charismatic or outgoing or gregarious. I would swallow my throat. My throat chakra was shut down. I didn't know how to use my arms when I would talk and communicate. I was an awkward duck, pencil-necked, a little bit chubby, looked like a 14-year-old when I was in my 20s, and went on this journey to just say, hey, bro, you got to figure out how to really connect with people and talk to people. I valued it. I would meet these charismatic people. I'm like, man, I want to know how to be like that. They feel so free to express and to communicate. And I somehow knew that my game of life, that my purpose was going to involve influence. And you can't really be an effective tool of influence if people can't connect with you because they're distracted by all your oddities or misalignments or things that don't even make sense. Like at one point, I didn't know how to dress me. And so I was just defaulting to like, I'll wear a suit. And it's like, that didn't even fit in the game that I was even playing. It was just didn't know what I didn't know. It was dangerous. So then it came to like practice, like how do I really connect? And what I really lean into, I guess above all, is passion. Just passionately connecting. Like When people walk away, they might say, I don't agree with Kris Krohn. But you can't deny that he passionately believes in what he's proclaiming. And so I think that's a big part of it is there's a lot of people that they talk like this. Hey, yeah, so I wanted to share an idea with you. And I'm like, okay, I can't hear you. Speak up, Junior. And you're not using any of your facial muscles. God gave you like 72 of them, like you're using 2. And I don't even know which ones they are because you're totally going ventriloquist on me. Like, liven up and wake up. And if you're going to share. And be heard and be seen, whether you're loved or whether you're hated, doesn't matter.
A guy in my neighborhood, he found out I work with you. And he's like, man, it's like I was watching his videos and after 2, like I got to stop. It's just too much. It's just too much. He just kept saying that over and over. It's like he couldn't describe what it was, but he's like, it's just too much. I got to take him in strides. And I was just laughing.
Yeah. It's like, turn your volume down real low and put me on speed like 1, like 0.5.
But I'm like, if you're not ready to make a change, don't listen.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're going to hit them on over and over and over.
But you see, that's the beautiful thing about the world today is that even if someone out there has a similar message than me and they look and they act and they talk different and they do it their way, people are going to follow them and connect with them too. And there is room in our expanding world for as many influencers as really want to emerge. There's no scarcity mindset of there's not enough or we're splitting the pie too many ways. My goal, for example, is not to have the largest base. I get right now 7-10 million organic views every week on my social. And there's a part of me that's like, I'd like 100 million views. That'd be cool. But I really don't. What I really want is just to connect with the people that I am meant to find and connect with. Whether it's a large group of people or a small group of people actually doesn't really matter to me. I'm only looking for my people. They're looking for leadership from me. They're looking for gold nuggets. They're looking for ideas and thoughts that will help them advance their life. And all I want to do is share my thoughts with those people. And only them.
You once said that your tribe are growth warriors.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I would argue in its most simplistic sense that the purpose of life is to grow. That's what it is for me. Like I don't believe that Earth is some accident that just we're participating in. I think there's divine purpose behind all of it. And the warriors that grow with intentionality, they are leaders or readers. They're consuming books. They go to conferences if they're available. They'll join masterminds. They're action takers, and they'll take action on growing versus the zombies. Let me be mean and call them zombies, right? The everyone else out there that is just like largely unconscious, unaware, robotically making the same decisions today, this Tuesday, that they made last Tuesday, just rinsing and repeating choices of the past. Their lives are going nowhere. And when you talk to them, they couldn't fog a mirror. Their heart hardly beats. They have no passion. They're just going through life. It's very clear they don't know who they are. It's very clear they don't have a strong aim or purpose. And these zombies, some of them will be awakened. I'm here to hang out with those that have been, and they want to do something. They want to mobilize. They want to come together. They want to cause something. They want to make things happen. They want to feel like, hey, God gave me this life, and the greatest gift I was given was agency, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to understand my choices, and I'm going to exercise. I'm going to exercise those choices and do what I'm called to do.
Are you a growth warrior?
I'm pretty much the best I know.
Okay, then what's your next move?
I think it's less about the move, and it's more about what I consistently do to grow. I spend hours every day in the growth game. I do it in the gym. I do it with my head in books. I do it in the way I spend time with my wife and my family. I've gamified, all right, let's put it to you this way. Everything that I do is to fight one fear, the fear of regret. We all going to die. And when that day comes, as you approach it, there's going to be a mounting fear of everything you didn't do that you wish you had. That is what I'm avoiding. And so I'm asking myself, what do I have to do to live the fullest, most amazing life? Let's just say I get one shot at this earth game. I'm here. My spirit's present. My soul is here. How do I take most advantage of this? How do I grow in the biggest way possible? And that's the way that I live my life, which is why I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning gladly, and my power hour, all the things that I do to waken up my heart, my mind, my body, my soul, my relationships, my connection to God, all of that happens between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. I do that so religiously because that's my expression of and that's where I grow. It's the conversations I have with God deep in meditation, or it's what I've done to my body to get it to achieve its next level of growth hacked next levelness. It's what I've done in developing my relationships, with my wife and my children and my friends. You can see it all. Developing my mind, developing my heart, doing breakthrough, all sorts of modalities. Just pushing the envelope, pushing the limits, grow, grow, grow. The old part of me loved producing outcome, results. It's like, I want to make X amount of money, and I want to drive this kind of car, and I want to live in that kind of house, and I want to travel to this many countries. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I care above all of that these days is, am I growing? If I'm growing, I'm usually loving more deeply. I'm a greater help to humanity. I'm causing greater good in the world. When I'm not growing, all of yesterday's thoughts consume me and produce tomorrow more of yesterday's results. And you fast forward a decade on that, and that is not a life worth examining. It's a sad life for me. I'm not sure it was worth living. It was taking up space. They were given a gift and didn't do anything with it.